welcome to another edition of Diaspora Network. I'm Ijoma Onyato. On the show today, we spotlight expatriates in business and management, find out the unique things they're doing in the global human resource management space. Our special report takes a look at the role of expatriates as channels for disseminating knowledge across some of the largest multinational corporations in the world. And don't miss the story of Nwakego Pam, a celebrated expatriate who has carved a niche for herself by supporting expatriate communities in the far-flung continents of the world. We always have an exciting lineup for you. Let's begin with a look at the news this week.
The Central Bank of Nigeria's decision to unify the nation's foreign exchange rates in June led to the sudden devaluation of the naira. Although officials are optimistic that the move will boost Nigeria's economy in the long term, the timing created challenges for Nigerian students already studying or planning to study abroad. Many have been unable to pay their tuition fees on time, if at all.
A lot of students, especially international students, have not been able to pay their school fees. They've not been able to sort out their education or complete their education even because of the exchange rate issues. Previously we had the parallel market, which are the black markets, and also the CBN rates. But it was very difficult for students to get hold of the official exchange bank rates from CBN. So that has been going on for a while, and like I said, it's affected the education of a lot of students in terms of being able to pay their fees and transfer money from Nigeria to complete their education.
Ademola Olaitan is a media and communications student in the United Kingdom. He explains how the CBN move has hiked university tuition fees for current as well as incoming students.
Personal stories which, I hear here and there and stuff are basically, people without having proper knowledge of how the UK system works, and, they believe it's all rosy over here or money are being plucked on the trees and all of that. No, that's a wrong narrative. Before you come here to study or to live or visit or whatsoever, just find out, due processes, and you don't have to sell your properties just to move to the UK because you've heard so much about how people make it over here or it's a greener pastures. No, there's a lot of things going on over here, and you need that right information so that you don't get here and then become homeless or start struggling to fend for yourself or start regretting that the life you were living back then, anywhere you're coming from, is better than what you're living currently. So
for now, students are finding other ways to adapt to the situation.
When I started Edward Consulting, the whole point was to make sure that African students from Nigeria, Ghana, Uganda, and any other African country can access quality higher education at an affordable rate. So in just 4 years, it has been able to secure over $12.9 million in scholarships. If you convert that to Naira using the current exchange rate, that's about 9.9 billion in Naira in scholarships. We're making sure that these students are able to find grants and scholarships to be able to access these schools that are now becoming very difficult for them to afford because of the exchange rate. And through Edward Consulting, Africans both from Nigeria and Ghana have been able to go to schools on 65% scholarship as well as 100%, and even a few getting scholarships like the DAD, which is the Germany government-supported scholarship, which covers things like living expense as well. And so our clients are better prepared.
Nigerian students, both at home and abroad, are eager to start seeing the promised positive impact of the economic reforms implemented by the government. Teniola Oyetayo with the Diaspora Network News Wrap from London.
International assignments continue to have an essential role in maintaining and generating high business value. In general, expatriates are professionals entrusted with this responsibility, and a large chunk of them are Nigerians. Let's take a look.
What kind of world would you like to live in? One which is economically thriving, peaceful, inclusive, healthy, green?
Dr. Anino Emoa founded Avandis Consulting, an international management consultancy firm in France with a subsidiary in Lagos that provides research lead strategy and financial advisory services to entrepreneurs and business leaders worldwide.
Women's leadership is progressing, and there are more and more opportunities despite, the gaps that they are in the market. And it was how to help women to progress into those positions. And
she also founded 100 Women at Davos, a community of impact-focused women leaders created in Davos during the World Economic Forum in 2019. She is a global diversity, equity and inclusion expert who is passionate about advocating for women's leadership through masterclasses and large-scale training programs. She is recognized as a LinkedIn top voice, a champion for change, an outstanding global woman, and a woman in fintech. Founder and CEO of Nazaru, Toyin Umesiri, is a global influencer, an international trade expert, and business coach to entrepreneurs, government agencies, and multilateral institutions. Through her extensive training programs at the Business and Leadership Academy, she empowers her clients in capacity building and skills development. In 2022, Toyin was appointed by the U.S. Secretary of Commerce to serve as member on the Illinois District Export Council. Olusegun Jaji was awarded member of the African and Caribbean community following his $5 million investment in the city. He has over 25 years' experience in starting up and leading companies in real estate and marine transportation in the US, Nigeria, and Sierra Leone. Jaji started with some experience in the Nigerian finance sector before relocating to the US, where he first worked as a parking attendant but grew to become general manager overseeing a 24-location parking company with a staff strength of over 240 persons. These and many more outstanding Nigerian expatriates are contributing to the growth of their host countries in various sectors of the economy.
And as more companies expand globally, there's an increase in international assignments and reliance on expatriates to manage global operations. Here's a look at what we found about the pros and cons of international assignment management.
One of the positive impacts of interdependent global economy is the emergence of culturally sophisticated leaders for effective management of international operations. These assignees, also known as expatriates, bring specialized skills, cultural understanding, and a global mindset that contributes to the success of organizations expanding into foreign markets. Be it short or long term, the deployment of expatriates is of importance within international startups, partnerships, joint ventures, mergers and acquisitions, as they enable the transfer of learning, expertise, and other synergies. In recent years, the proportion of expatriates in multinational companies have risen, with Nigerians taking center stage in different roles and contributing to the development of many countries throughout the world. Back home, Nigeria also plays host to foreign expatriates, many of whom are setting benchmarks of hard work and passion that has transformed businesses in Nigeria. Although living as an expatriate can be exciting, it can also be an emotionally difficult transition that involves separation from friends and family, which is why experts advocate navigating these challenges by networking, socializing with like-minded expats in their line of service.
And when it comes to international relocation, the family is a huge consideration. Here's an expatriate who's made a success out of supporting expatriate spouses and partners in different continents of the world.
Seasoned international human development and gender advocate Nwakego Ibrahim Pam wears many hats. She is an author, educationist, inspirational speaker, a social entrepreneur, trainer, administrator, and philanthropist.
Today is just about is a workshop. We want to work with you so that you can face your vulnerability, you can speak up how you feel, and she'll be able to lead you through and let you know that you're not alone in anyhow you're feeling. There's a lot of mental health issue, there's a lot of depression, there's a lot of uncertainty, especially when you're a foreigner in a new country, or even as a Korean having to deal with foreigners. So she's there to just make the transition for us easier, to get to understand our feelings and be able to deal with our feelings when we feel them.
Nwakego obtained her bachelor's degree in English language and linguistics from the University of Jos, Nigeria, a postgraduate certification on early childhood education and parental involvement from the Golda Meir Mount Carmel International Training Center in Israel, early childhood education from the University of Phoenix, Arizona, and several others. She started her career in Nigeria as a classroom teacher and graduated to teaching in a secondary school. She also worked as a lecturer at the police college Ikeja. Nwakego has sat on school boards and worked with several government parastatals. She has a wide range of international, multinational and multicultural experience. She has lived in several continents and makes it a point of duty to leave her mark in most of these locations through the establishment of different trade and private sector initiatives. She is the founder and chairperson of the Expat Professional and Business Women's Network International in Tunisia. She also founded the EPBWNI Consultants International, as well as the Petra Speech and Early Childhood Developmental Center in Jos, Nigeria. She co-founded the Korea-Africa Economic Association for Korea and Developing Economies in Africa and the Spousal Association of the Green Climate Fund in South Korea. Her most recent initiative is the African Women Entrepreneurs in Diaspora, a cooperative that helps African women who live in the diaspora find funding for their various projects across countries in Africa.
These are called Ankara. They are pure cottons. And then we have the ones that are lace. They are not here. And then we have Ashoke.
She has worked at different levels in various international organizations like the International Criminal Court and the International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia in The Hague, as well as the British Council in Nigeria. Nwakego is a representative of the Korea National Sports University in Africa and collaborated with the INHA University Incheon in South Korea to teach diversity in a global society. She also collaborated with the Israeli government through the Israeli Embassy in Nigeria as their Mashav coordinator for several years. In recognition of her work, she has received numerous accolades. She received a Medal of Honor from the Nigerian government and an Award of Appreciation from the IFES Authority. Nwakego is also known for her tremendous work with the special needs children and their families. She works as a speech therapist in Nigeria, Tunisia, and the Netherlands. Her guiding principle in life is to leave a trace of herself in every country and community she finds herself by impacting and empowering lives for sustainable change. She is married to Mr. Ibrahim James Pam, and they are blessed with 5 children and 6 grandchildren.
Welcome back to the program. Let's hear more from Nwakego Pam, who's been recognized for her contributions to expatriate communities. How do you find it working and just traveling to the different countries of the world where you're encouraging other expatriate spouses like yourself?
I want to emphasize that it wasn't my first choice. I became an expat based on my husband's career. And so I had to leave my career behind and follow him around the different continents. As an expat's wife, I want to say it's at the beginning, it was a struggle, but as I started finding my feet, my voice, and a purpose, it became an adventure. And that adventure became a vision to empower other women like me who, out of marriage or out of work purposes, leave their comfort zone to travel the world. So as an expat spouse, it has been very educative for me, very enlightening, had broadened my my vision, and my mindset has shifted in different spheres of life.
How early in your career did you realize that there was a need to highlight the sort of work expatriate spouses or partners, etc., do in the diaspora? Obviously, they live in continents of the world that people only hear about by looking at at a map or an atlas, and they do fantastic jobs at what they do. How early did you realize there was a role for you in this kind of space?
I realized that as soon as I got to The Hague, which was our first posting, I was working with the British Council in Nigeria when my husband got this appointment with the International Criminal Court. And so, as I was putting in my resignation, my boss then, Kati, said to me, you mean you want to give up your job and go with Ibrahim because they were friends? I said, Ibrahim, family comes first. As soon as Ibrahim leaves, I follow him. His right leg will be landing on Netherlands, and the left one will be mine, because family comes first.
Question I'm actually asking is how you were able to turn that passion for doing something beyond supporting your family, beyond supporting your spouse, how that became a global business where other people who are spouses are now looking up to you and keying into this idea quickly.
Yeah. So because of my experience in The Hague, when after 7 years we left to Tunisia, I was a better expatriate wife when we got to Tunisia. I knew exactly what to do to establish myself financially. And so when I got to Tunisia, I met other spouses of my husband's colleagues that were working with the African Development Bank, and they were struggling. A lot of them had depression. Some of them couldn't understand what they wanted to do. And when I got to Tunisia, within 3 months, I set up one of the best English-speaking inclusive schools centers in Tunisia, and they all came to me and said, "Oh, Madam Pam, how did you do this?" I said, the best way we can do is to come together, because with one voice you cannot be heard. But if we come together and form a forum, then they will know that we are not just expatriate spouses who are privileged to live in big houses and drive big cars. We are professionals on our own merit. So we came together, 25 women from 18 countries came together April 20th, 2013, and we started what was called today the Expat Professional and Business Women's Network. At that time, our vision was quite limited. We wanted to keep our CVs very active so that when we go back to our various home country, we would not have been left behind. We will be able to be at par with our peers back home.
So for those who, I mean, I'm glad that you said what you did about living in big houses and driving big cars, often being chauffeured around, because that is what people think of expatriate wives. Obviously, there's a lot more to it. How have you been able to use that particular initiative to inspire those who are moving to the diaspora, who have a lot of experience and don't know what to do when they get there?
Thank you very much. What we did when we started the network, our first aim was to change the mindset and to help the emotional instability that the women were feeling, the inferiority complex that they suffered. Even though they were professionals, they've not been working for quite some time. So what we did was to start a capacity building training session. And then we had this personal development plan and career development plan. And the best way, and funding such things were quite expensive then. And though we were expatriate spouses, we were poor. Even the grassroots women were richer than us because they had income coming in.
Did you say you were poor?
We were poor. We lived in big houses and rode big cars, but financially we were not we were independent. We depended on our husbands to buy all the little things. We didn't have money to do our own initiative. And as a married woman that your needs always come at the bottom of the ladder, because they have to pay the mortgage, they have to pay the school fees. And when you as a woman want to do something, usually the finances are very tight. So after that, we decided that we collaborate with international organizations, NGOs, governments, and embassies. and we requested experts to come and train us pro bono. And what we could offer back to them was a certificate of appreciation for them investing in us. And by the time we came together and we started collaboration with the African Development Bank far back in 2013. We started doing trainings. All the spouses of the employees came for those who wanted to improve on their personal career or wanted to start businesses. So that is how we started impacting lives. And then when the African Development Bank decided to move back to Abidjan in 2015, that was a catalyst for our expansion, because not all the women went back to Abidjan. They all went to the various countries in Africa. And that was a catalyst for us to start having chapters in different countries in Africa. Right now, we have about 10 chapters in Asia, in Europe, in Africa, and Latin America, and we have members in over 25 countries.
All right, you've talked about some of your games, partners, and etc. Talk to us about some of the challenges, because obviously getting funding, donors, sponsorship, that's tough, you know, for people to believe in you, looking at your experience across the continents. What sort of challenges have you faced?
For me as a person, challenges are always an opportunity to excel. So when we started the network and we didn't have sponsor, I single-handedly sponsored the network for the first 3 years of the network through the income coming in from the Petra Speech and Early Childhood Development Center, which I opened in Tunisia in October of 2013. So after that, when we started having meetings with the African Development Bank, they saw how productive, how impactful that we've been on the spouses of their employees. So we started having sponsorship, individual sponsorship. So what we do, we write sponsorship letters to individuals, to corporations, and we give them a budget and they pick from the budget. So in Tunisia, we were fairly well funded individually and collectively, because as members of the network, we said to ourselves, we want to empower ourselves. We are not here to make money. You know, when I started the network, I said to the women, this network is not a money spinning platform. This network is a platform that will empower you to go and create your own wealth.
So was that not challenging in any way? Obviously, people would hope that, you know, from the network, you know, something would come out of it. So you've talked about funding it by yourself. Any other challenge? Was that a challenge as well? People expecting to make some money out of what you were doing and not?
As you might know, that the first initiative of any African woman is to make money. So when women started coming to the network and they found out that it wasn't a money giving network, it was more a capacity building network. Those who stayed and benefited, and later on discovered how through the capacity building trainings, how they have financially empowered themselves.
Okay.
And I'm happy to say the first 25 women who started the network, they are now financially very independent. They are even doing greater things that I'm doing, and they are impacting their individual societies and also mentoring other women just as I've mentored them.
All right. So in terms of experience now, you've got experience of Asia, the Netherlands, Europe, the UK. What sorts of things would you want replicated back home? Obviously, gender equality is one of your, something you talk about quite a bit. It's also UN SDG Goal 5. What do you think is missing back home?
One thing that I have noticed is that it's not that in Nigeria we lack the structure or the funding. What we lack is the will to enforce what we already have. So my major concern will be not replicating, but ensuring that policies and programs that have been initiated are executed, especially if a mentorship program is taken to the grassroots area. From my 20 years experience in human development, I can specifically tell you the massive change that will take place in rural area. And there will be, immigration will be reduced based on these women in the rural area. They get the mentorship, they get the placement program, they get the funding they want, And you see, once you change the mindset of the woman, you change her possibility of becoming financially independent. And that is where the core is.
What would you say is a high point for you as we round up in your career?
High point. There's never a high point in one's life until the day you pass away. But my high point being the chairperson and the founder of the Expert Professional and Business Women's Network International is to see the seed I have planted in other women, to see it blossom in such a way that not only do I feel the ripples anywhere I am, but for them to see who they have become, to see how they moved from point A to point B, and the impact not only for their individual lives or the accolades that I get, but to see actual lives being changed.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Pam, for joining us on Diaspora Network. We'll look out for you and wish you well in all your endeavors.
Thank you so much, Ijoma, for giving me this opportunity.
Now, that's a beautiful story of touching lives in an unusual way. That's the show. You can watch all editions of Diaspora Network on our YouTube channel, and there's a lot more on our website. I'm Ijoma Onyato. Thanks a lot for watching.